What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast. He is Kevin Reynolds. I am Bobby Wall, and we are here to talk all things football and hit you with some takes that might rattle you up a bit. On this morning's show, filming in the morning for you here on Thursday, we will discuss the week that was 15 in the NFL, always our starts of the week, and get into some news and notes. But first, Kevin, our very first morning show. How are you, my friend?
It's morning, so I don't care for it, but we chose this, so here we are.
We did. School's out for me. Obviously, you've been done tennis for a while, so we got a little more freedom, and we decided to get this one out now.
Yeah, as opposed to last night. I didn't know you were a Dunkin' person.
Dunkin' is far superior to Starbucks.
Well, yeah.
I don't understand the Starbucks
But
thing. It's
you're
just
sort of fancy. You seem like the type of guy that would sit there and buy his own beans and has his own little crusher thing and make his own coffee because you're Mr. Fancy. So it surprises me that you're a Dunkin' guy.
well, I would if Reggie didn't already do all that stuff. My significant other, she takes care of all of that. She just got beans from Rwanda yesterday in the mail. We had a little cup this morning. But you're missing something here, Kevin. What do you see?
Um,
What color is this coffee,
oh,
Kevin?
it's not black. What's that all about? Have you turned over a new leaf?
Well, it is well known amongst you and I that
Well
due
known
to my
amongst us.
due to my extreme manliness and hair on my chest, I only drink my coffee black.
Right.
But I decided to give you a little treat and do some frilly something with white chocolate and cream and sugar, and it was a horrible, horrible mistake.
That's a falsity.
It's so
They
sweet.
have the good peppermint there right now. They got the caramel, which I get a lot. Mocha's nice. They have some flavor there. Oh, sugar cookie right now. Oh, is that delicious?
Maybe I don't know. Next time I'm feeling frilly, I might do something like that.
Well, what exactly did you get there, fancy boy?
Yeah, white something with white chocolate and cream and sugar. It's just too sweet.
Uh, not on like well, yeah,
It's
not on. Well, unlike you, you're not too sweet.
okay. I can take that.
You're just a
Um,
ratchety old man, is what you are.
it's fine. The shoe fits. Meanwhile, I have the Christmas spirit here, Kevin. You're missing my hat.
How
Ho
so?
ho ho. Well,
Oh yeah,
like
I
I
saw
said,
you putting on. I was going to wear mine today, but since it's a morning show and I'm irritable in the morning, I chose not to. But if we'd have done this at like 4 p.m. or later, who knows what I'd have run out here, and I might have had on a full Santa suit.
and I am definitely a morning person.
Yeah, I am not. I
This
don't
is when
like
I
being
thrive.
awake right now. It's
I love
irritating.
it. Sun is up.
Seeing your lovely face, I mean that makes it bearable. But aside from that, I'd love to go crawl back in bed with my dog for about another 2 hours and then get up and be productive. Because my whole life, I've been one of those people. I'm a night person, so I don't sleep more than other people, probably less than other people. But I like to go to bed at like 3 and get up at 9 or 10, and then probably 10, not 9, 10, and then I just sort of meander for about 2 hours, and then I start to come about. Unfortunately, the world we live in does not operate around that schedule. So in the winter time, my schedule's really weird. Summer, I'm up really early any day because I'm at the tennis court by 8:30. So uh I love you, buddy, but I hate being up right now and seeing your lovely face.
Well, I'm sorry, I guess. I don't know.
Is it
But
cold there?
it's chilly this morning, but it's going to get up to like almost 60.
Oh, well, aren't you
Um,
special?
well, I wonder what the sleep cycle is for Brandon Staley because he's got a lot of extra time since the last time we spoke. He is
So
out
awful.
as the Chargers head coach. I can't believe it took this long. You texted me. You said, "Do you think he'll be fired? Do you think he'll make it to lunch or
To halftime.
within 20?" You said within 24 hours
I
after the
did.
game.
That was the second one. The first one I sent to you, you
Yeah.
were asleep, I think, during the game. If that he should be fired at halftime. It was what 42-0 at that point. And then yeah, I later on I fired, will he make it to lunchtime?
And
Which
I don't
I'm
think he
sure he
did.
did he?
No, I don't.
He's right
It's like
around
11.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously the job will be open in the off season, and this is, I feel like, such an appealing job. You have Justin Herbert locked in as your quarterback. You'll likely get a top 10 pick There are a lot of holes to fill in, which is why you get that top 10 pick, especially in pass defense. They're definitely worse places to coach. It's not like going into Carolina last year. Um, I think they always underperform. So they have good
Yeah.
players and a good scheme and stuff. It just doesn't happen.
I saw a stat that their defense is in like the stat of that you don't like it, the top 10 oldest in the league. So there's definitely going to be some things to do with there. But man, you've got one hell of an offense to start with. You've got a franchise quarterback to build around. I know some people are starting to say maybe he's not. And I don't think it's that. I think it's that your coach sucks. And bringing in a new one could reinvigorate and give him the guy a chance. I mean, he just got beat up this year. The only issue with California is, if you make 5 million a year, the state will take about 4.7 million of it. But aside from that, and honestly, I know it seems funny, but there's players now intentionally not playing in California because they don't want half of their salary going to crackheads.
Well, it's
So
always been a thing.
yeah,
It's always been a thing where players would pick somewhere like Florida over other
right.
places
But now
because there's
now it's gotten
no
excessive. Now that like they
right.
actually the press talks about how and players will just say straight up, no. I told my agent we're not even thinking about it. But I don't think that's going to happen. There's 32 head coaching jobs in the world for the NFL, so anybody that would turn it down or that would be silly. But I wonder where they'll go with this because
Well, that was going to be my next question for you. Is this where Eric Bieniemy gets his shot?
I hope
Try
not.
to turn Herbert into Patrick
I
Mahomes.
hope not. I don't think he would be right there.
His current quarterback is
Awful.
legally, I think, leading the league in
Oh
passing
yeah,
yards.
he's the one that got benched last week. That's right.
Well, he
Yeah, yeah,
did.
because he's so good. He got benched. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
right.
you know what?
What was I thinking? What was I thinking?
Brissett came in and looked awesome.
You could put my mom in there. She looked awesome after Hal. Why? What is your
Sam Howell is seventh in
non-sexual,
passing yards.
unhealthy attraction to Sam Howell?
I
I
just like
don't
him for
understand
fantasy.
it.
He's not very good in real life. I like him for fantasy, though,
He did do
obviously.
you well 1 week, yes.
And he was my starts of the week a couple times and blew up.
Yeah. I don't remember that. Okay.
So I was watching the Colts game a little bit, and I'm looking at Michael Pittman, and a thought struck me. A thought struck me. So I looked it up. Um, this year, Michael Pittman is averaging 7 catches for 76 yards a game, right around there. And
Okay.
then I looked at the year right before Michael Thomas set the record for receptions and stuff. Because I thought, man, this has got a Michael Thomas feel to me. Well, Thomas averaged 7 catches for 78 yards. So basically identical numbers. Thomas ended that season with 104 catches, 12, 45, and 5 touchdowns. That's doable for Pittman here. The very next year is when he went 125, 1,409, and then the following years when he absolutely dominated. But Michael Pittman, I know it took him a few years, but he's on this rise. I think that I don't want to say he's going to be the next, peak Michael Thomas, but very similar size, everything.
Talking to you sometimes it's brutal. It's just brutal
Elaborate.
that we're going to sit here and pretend that Mike Pittman is going to be the next Thomas for that 3 year span. Here would be my biggest. I actually think the guy's amazing. Yes, and he's because he plays in Indy, he's sort of overlooked.
Yes.
But
Agreed.
2 words to tell you why that's not happening.
Gardner
Drew
Minshew or Anthony
Brees.
Richardson? Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
Anthony
Drew
Richardson's not going
Brees
to get
is
it
not
done.
playing in Indy, and when Anthony Richardson's back, you're going to probably see these numbers dip a bit because it'll be a little more running.
Oh yeah,
The guy can chuck it. We've seen the dude can stand flat foot and throw the ball 70 yards, so I don't think that'll be an issue. But I don't really. I I would call this year his ceiling. And I'm not saying he can't get it again, but I can't imagine him taking those 2 huge steps up and setting all-time NFL records.
and that's a shame because he's doing this with Gardner Minshew.
Well, and that's the thing. That's a lot of teams, though. A lot of teams have players that could be blowing up if they're in the right situation. If they played for the 49ers, they played for the Dolphins, but they don't. And unfortunately, they end up becoming George Pickens and Deontay Johnson and just refusing to block on plays because they might get hurt. I don't know how as a coach how do you quantify that, qualify that, anything that? How do your teammates how could any more teammate on your team, offense, defense, look at you and never have any respect for you again when you literally say outright to the press, I didn't block because I'm afraid I might get hurt.
I had guys in college before, like, as I'm moving up the ranks, sophomore year, starting defense, junior year. If you took off a play, they would punch you in the face when we got to the locker room.
Yeah.
Like, there's been fights that had to get broken up in film room because dudes were, um, you know, taking plays off and not hitting their assignments.
Right.
I have no idea what's going on here.
Here, and this is worse though. I know everybody in any sport occasionally sort of daydreaming, just say, okay, I'm not even involved in this play. So, Randy Moss used to do it occasionally. He'd just be over on his way out, flanked way out wide, knowing the play's going the other direction, nothing's coming in. He just sort of stand there. This dude actively said, yes, I'm supposed to be blocking on this play, but I refuse to because I don't want to get hurt. I mean, it's just blatantly saying I'm just not going to do my job at all. Even when it's presented in front of me, I refuse to do it. It wasn't lazy. He actively chose me.
I don't know how he doesn't find the bench.
Me either. What is
No
Tomlin
idea.
doing? Has he completely lost his mojo with these people? I mean, look
No
at all
idea.
the knuckleheads he's been able to wrangle in over the years, but these two guys, especially Pickens, he can't seem to do it.
Well, that was Pickens' thing coming out. Like, that's why he dropped so
Yeah,
much in the
yeah, you're
draft. I mean, I
absolutely right.
think he
Because
was
he was my favorite receiver coming out in that class of all those badass receivers. He's the one I told you athletically I thought was actually the best.
he's got the talent.
He
There's no
does, but
question.
he's a total just jackass.
Yep.
But that say Gardner Minshew, man, he's having one heck of a year too. Another one that's just going under the radar because he plays in Indy.
Yeah. All right. Let's get going with these games. Our first one, the Raiders beat the Chargers 63-21, which is why the fellow we were talking about, Brandon Staley, that was the final nail in the coffin. Easton Stick, I don't think you're starting him anywhere, but he did throw for 3 touchdowns. And Josh Palmer was the only other Charger in double digits, 4 catches for 113 and a score. And then the Raiders, you were good with just about everyone you started. Zamir White filling in for Josh Jacobs was fine. Trey Tucker, nobody ever even heard of him. He ended up with 20 fantasy points. Aiden O'Connell got almost 30. Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams, everybody. I mean, you score 63 points. Tough to not be happy with your fantasy production.
Yeah, it was ugly. I watched this game. I texted you a couple times. I think you
Yep.
said you had fallen asleep. It was
Yeah.
surreal to watch. It was weird. It was I don't even know how to describe it. Anybody that watched it knows exactly what I'm saying. It was just weird. But
It, it's
entertaining.
it's there's only one game difference between the Raiders and the Chargers, but they just feel I don't know, they're different spots.
But yeah, but this is a Chargers team that was starting Easton Stick. That's different than the team that had Justin
They
Herbert
started,
out winning games.
yeah, but the Raiders started Aiden O'Connell. I mean, aren't they the same
Yeah,
person?
I don't think so. I think O'Connell's got a little experience under him so far this year and has had games where he's awful, games where he's played well, where Easton Stick just gets stuck out in the middle of this toilet drain going down as it was. I mean, Justin Herbert played this game. I don't know that the score would have been all that different. Maybe 49-21.
But Keenan Allen was out as well.
Yeah, that didn't help. And he's probably going to be out this week too. Matter of fact,
Uh,
I'd be really surprised if he plays again the rest of the year. It's
If I'm
great.
Keenan Allen, I'm pulling a
Glad,
George Pickens.
glad I saved him.
I'm getting out of there. All right. The Bengals beat the Vikings 27-24 in yet another matchup of backup quarterbacks. So far, we got 2 NFL games and not a single starting quarterback that you would imagine would be on the field. And this game was pretty surprising for me. Nick Mullins, 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Ty Chandler had a monster game, 132 yards on the ground plus a
Ridiculous.
score. Jordan Addison blew up. Justin Jefferson, this was his second game back, correct? Yeah, because the first
Yeah,
game he played a little bit, got hurt.
yeah.
7 for 84. So even with Nick Mullins manning the helm, you're still okay with
Oh yeah, 10
Jefferson.
targets.
Yeah, yep. Jake Browning was fine on the other side. Joe Mixon was fine. T. Higgins had a great game, but Jamar Chase disappoints again, 4 for 64.
Yeah, the Bengals had 3 points, I believe, at halftime. Uh, Browning, and I think there's a guy in the one side that had T. Higgins who had 0 points at halftime. Browning had
Yep.
3, but by the end of the game, they ended up with 40. The Vikings
You
just
know,
stopped playing defense. It's really
yeah,
going to
and
really is hurting the Vikings as far as maybe ending up missing the playoffs.
this is what 2 games in a row for Jamar Chase. Only 4 targets. I mean, you just mentioned Justin Jefferson had 10. That's what you do.
Well, yeah, but he didn't play the whole game. Well, that said, he left early. I think early fourth quarter when he busted his shoulder. So AC
Almost.
sprain. There's a very real chance he's done for the year unless they make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they
Glad
got
I
a shot.
saved him.
Yeah. Right. There's another one we talked about off air. The Bengals are in the playoffs as it stands right now,
They are.
8-6. The AFC is like nobody wants to win, uh, besides the Ravens. I mean, how many teams are 8-6, 9-5, 7-7, all right there? There's like 9 teams.
Yeah, there's a lot. And they beat each other because when you look at the overall records of the AFC and NFC, it's uh, at least going into last week, it's a pretty stark contrast. I think 11 of the 16 teams in the AFC had winning records going into last week.
Yeah, it's
And they beat each
all,
other. The thing is,
all
they beat up on the NFC. That's why you end up with all those winning records. Because obviously, you're playing people in your own conference. It's moot. I think moot is one of my favorite words, and we've used that
is
a
it?
bit lately. Like you use
Yeah,
it with your quarterback throwing a touchdown against your defense. Well, it's
yeah.
just moot.
Good point.
Didn't
Yeah,
hurt you. It didn't help you.
right.
It's a fine word. It should be used more often.
You bring it out to the public's eye, Kevin.
I'll see what I can do.
The Colts beat the Steelers 30-13, and it didn't feel that close. If you watch the game, the
And it was
Colts were moving,
13-0 at one point, I believe.
Colts were
Pittsburgh was
moving,
up 13-0.
but then it was,
All Colts.
yeah. What I don't know what happened to the Steelers. It was
They just quit playing. I think, like I said, they've lost the team. It's Pickens is. I don't even think it's that thing where Pickens is a cancer. I just think they are done with the quarterback carousel. I think Tomlin, although still a great coach, except for when he cheats, um, I just think every once in a while, even though he's never had a losing season, you need a new voice. I've said it many times on the show. Sometimes you just need a new voice in the locker room.
you made a comment before we got on air that we were talking about Staley getting fired. If Mike Tomlin ended up getting fired or resigned, how would he get hired the next day? And I said he would probably be hired within the hour.
Yeah, if he
Yes,
wanted to, yes,
yes,
they
you
would
got that
gobble him up
tradition.
so quick.
He's a great coach.
If I was the Steelers, why not? Why not trade him?
You could, yeah.
Why
Well,
not? If
well,
you're
we have to look
thinking
at that
about getting rid of
contract.
him, all these teams that get rid of like your Staleys, you have to because I wouldn't trade him for a can of green beans. But guys like this, Belichick, why not get to even if it's a third round draft pick? Why not? It's more than nothing.
You would get something for Staley. You could say, look, I'll give you Staley for a 7th round pick. That's only
No
a
way.
7th round
No,
pick,
I
but
wouldn't
it's
even do a
something.
can of green beans. I think you've lost your mind. Why would anybody want a guy who
Position
is that
coach. Not
awful?
the head coach. You'd have him coach your wide receivers or something. Some coaches, Kevin, aren't cut out to be head coaches,
Yeah,
but
but
they're
he's just
good
pure awful.
position coaches.
It's
And
one thing if you're just struggling a little bit. This dude, yeah, he's like Arthur
I,
Smith. He has no business in the NFL.
I think if the coaches, I mean, if the head coach has so much that goes into it that you don't think about, like the time management and this and that, and if he only had to focus on coaching a position, he'd be fine. I mean, he got a head coaching gig for some reason.
Well, that's true, but at this point, I wouldn't give a can of green beans.
Well, Deontay Johnson is the only player worth having simply because he's the one that found the end zone for the Steelers. I mentioned decent game. Zach Moss, kind of a letdown, I thought, only 10 points. And that was it. I know
Well,
we
he got
talked.
hurt, so that didn't help. Yeah,
Yeah. Did he get hurt? Was it a touchdown that got called back? Or
I
no, it
forget the
wasn't
exact play, but it's early
receiving
enough
touchdown.
that the other two backs had 28 carries between them.
Yeah, I think he ended up with a receiving touchdown. I think that's what it was.
He did 3 for 20 and a touchdown.
Yeah, and I think
Minshew,
that's
the
the play got
Stash
hurt on.
played great. Colts are looking good, man. They're a team that could do some damage. It might upset somebody in the playoffs if they make it. Are they currently in or are
Maybe,
they currently 8?
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't they they handled the Steelers, obviously, which is, almost a playoff team, but the Colts are 8-6 and they are currently they're
Yeah.
tied for the division lead with the Jaguars, 8-6.
I'm not saying I think they're going to win the AFC Championship here. I'm just saying I wouldn't necessarily want to play them. They can throw some points in a bunch. They've got a decent D. Of course,
The
they got to
Detroit
make it
Lions
first.
roared back into relevance after
Oh, quickly. Sorry, I got to interrupt you. For those in the fantasy world still, it's rumored that Jonathan Taylor will be back this week now.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank
And
you.
that Mason Rudolph will be starting for the Steelers.
He practiced in full.
Yeah.
Taylor did. So should be good. The Lions came in and, the Broncos, who've been playing very well over the last, I don't know, 8-9 weeks. And then, boy, they pound them 42-17. Goff had what, 5 touchdown passes,
He did.
35 fantasy points. Jahmyr Gibbs. Is he the best player on the field when he's on? I mean,
Well,
most games.
he's
He
got
is.
he's got a friend on his own team, Mr. St. Brown, that I think can give him a run for the money, but
I
just
think you're
doesn't
right.
get to touch the ball nearly as much. But yes, he is. He looks like a
He's
man amongst boys.
he averaged almost 10 yards a carry in this game with 11 attempts. So it wasn't like he had 3 carries for 30 yards, 11
Right.
for 100. Sam Laporta had 3 touchdown catches, and then our boy St. Brown, he did his thing, 7 for 112 and a score. And then Russell Wilson was the only player for Denver in double digits. But Cortland Sutton, 5 for 71. He just missed his touchdown this
He
week.
did, man. You and I, we talked about this Lions thing and like the Laporta. At times, it seemed in this game like Jared Goff could just, put a little lounger back there, sip some lemonade,
Oh yeah,
watch an episode of The Blacklist, and still get off a pass to Sam Laporta in the corner of the end zone. It was unreal how much time he had. Like the Broncos weren't even trying on defense. It was it was odd, sort of strange to watch how much time he really had. And I'm sitting in my head the whole time thinking, this is going to Laporta, this is going to Laporta, and then boom, Laporta stands back in the end zone, another touchdown.
yeah. Well,
Denver just didn't show up.
when you give even the quarterbacks that aren't really that good. I mean, if Zach Wilson wasn't running for his life, he could complete some passes
Oh
at
yeah,
the in,
he wouldn't
the
do this
NFL.
well, but he would do a lot better
Right.
than he does, right? If you have a
But when
chance.
you give a talented and even a halfway decent quarterback some time, they can pick you apart.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good of a corner you are, how good of a safety you are.
Right.
If you're just if the offense ends up running spaghetti patterns like the backyard, you can only keep up with them for so long.
Right. The Jets couldn't keep up with the Dolphins at
Sweet
all.
Lord Almighty.
32-0. We were pretty confident that this game wasn't going to be that close, but good grief. Jalen Waddle, in the absence of Tyreek Hill, finally we get an awesome game from him. 8 for 142 and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert continues to pile on the rushing touchdowns. 2 more this week. Is he at 20 now?
20, yeah.
That's, man, what was he, a 6th, 7th round fantasy pick? What a steal.
Probably
And
right around that area, yeah, because
I think it was the Jets a few weeks ago. We joked about I can't believe they had 2 quarterbacks score negative fantasy points.
hold
That's
it
hard to
again.
do. And then here we are again. The quarterback position had a total of negative 3.6 fantasy points. Impressive, New York.
It's really odd. Who is their quarterbacks coach?
I don't know. Do they have one?
I don't know. I think most teams do.
I think they just hang out.
The ineptitude is just unreal. I can't really explain it. I can't understand it. I don't get it. It's weird.
Difficult to be bad. The Kansas City Chiefs take down the Patriots 27-17, but this game was interesting for a while. The Pats were right there. I think the Pats ended up leading at one point, 10-7, maybe. I think it was. Patrick Mahomes disappointed yet again. I know he had 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks.
Yeah, but we talked about this. We know we have to put a little asterisk there on he had another awful game.
I know. I understand that he cannot help how terrible his wide receivers.
Just so awful. Like we talked last night that he'd be better off if they just had stone hands and the ball just hit their hands and fell. But it seems like his receivers, particularly Tony, I think you described it as volleyball. He sort of seems to set it up for the other team.
That's right.
Because every ball he throws to that D-bag, he throws it up in the air and ends up getting intercepted. Balls that hit him perfectly in stride, right in his hands. and end up interceptions. And finally, Mahomes showed his frustration a little bit on the sideline, which I was glad. I think his teammates need to see him getting a little quit with
I agree.
the PC crap that he always does, and just call some of these guys out for what it is.
I agree. And I'd mentioned uh, there's Tony in the Super Bowl last year. He scored like 2 touchdowns. I think he only played 3 snaps or something. And you're watching thinking, man, this guy is so good. Why doesn't he play more? It makes no sense. And you realize he is an absolute liability out
Yeah.
there. And the fact that he scores any touchdowns is straight luck because it could be a turnover
Yeah. He's
just
just
as
a
easily
straight up
as it could be a
spark
touchdown.
guy. He seems like
Right.
he has an IQ around 70 and he can't catch a cold. So
It's
basically, he's just a track star out on the field, costing his team. I think we said last night we know of at least 2 games that he single handedly has cost them this year.
well, I think Mahomes is getting like he's figuring out. He realized that Rashee Rice is really the only decent receiver he's got, and he's giving him the football. 9 targets.
Oh
The
yeah.
next closest receiver was only 4. Kelsey had 7, but boy, Kelsey does not look like Kelsey. I don't know if he's hurt
I
or
think
what.
teams are
Maybe he's
taking
just
him
old.
out. I think the blueprint was set about midseason, even before that, since they don't trust any of the receivers on the team. The others,
But he,
there's no respect for them, so they just double, triple Kelsey every game
he
now.
I even watched him drop some passes, and
Yeah,
that's not
he's
normally a
definitely has
Travis
more
Kelce
drops this
thing.
year. He's got bigger things to worry about now. His endless commercials and his little
Oh
girlfriend.
yeah, that's
That's
how it
far
works,
more
man.
important than winning games.
Right.
His
And
agent
then for
even
the
came out and said that the NFL is his side hustle. Did you see that last week?
I did not.
Yeah, he came out and said the NFL is just Travis's side hustle at this point. He makes so much more money with everything else.
Who said that?
His agent.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he was just talking about a money thing and not where his attention goes.
Well,
But
it
you never
came to
know.
why Travis doesn't demand more money. And he said because he wants to win.
Uh,
But again, my point is, I understand all that's just sort of silly, but when you're making that much more money outside of football, it means you're also not focused on football like you once were. And in the NFL, the top of the top in the world, that matters. It happens
does.
to tennis players too. They go win a grand slam. Next thing you know, the press is all on them. They have $10 million worth of endorsements. They don't win another grand slam the rest of their lives.
It's a shame. And that's the thing when you read about the greatest players of all time, you read about Michael Jordan. One thing that everyone says, all the coaches, everything is no one. I just listened to an interview with Dean Smith the other day. No one has ever outworked Michael Jordan.
No, first guy on the court, last guy to leave. We'll give you the freaking stink eye as you're walking off the court if you leave before him.
But everyone did.
They still would
Oh,
eventually, but
yeah,
still, he made it known to all of them. This is why I'm the GOAT, because I'm still here. You're leaving.
right. The Browns keep finding ways to win. What are they, 9-5, I think?
Yes.
They're second behind the Ravens in the AFC North. This team is making the playoffs, and with that defense, they got a shot to take down a team or two that maybe you wouldn't think they would, but they beat the Niners and the Ravens this year, the two
They did.
number one seeds. They've
They
beat
did.
them both, which makes no sense. Um, Nobody was good for the Bears. You got double digits for Komet because he scored, but even with a touchdown, he only got you 10.8
Yeah,
points.
we'll take that from a tight end.
Yeah. How about Flacco's 374 yards? Now I know he threw 3 picks, got 2 touchdowns.
They started off rough, yeah.
Yeah. But look, they found a way to get it done. Amari Cooper had a nice game, 4 for 109. And there was a pass that Flacco threw to Amari Cooper that looked like Patrick Mahomes. It was like a 3-quarter delivery,
Yeah.
like over one defender, under another. It was,
Was that the one he
I mean, it
ran
was,
for the TD?
yeah.
They did
Uh,
the tight route
Um,
down the line.
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
And then
impressive.
Njoku blew up again, 14 targets for David Njoku, 10 for 104 and a score.
Yeah. Dude, so Flacco, that's saying 2 TDs, 3 interceptions. Any of these other quarterbacks on that team that have been 0 TDs, 5 interceptions. He brought them back. He led them down the field for that winning score. But here's something amazing that happened this week. The Browns, even though that was his third start for them, they finally just signed him late last week to an actual
Right.
contract. He was still
Yeah.
just being put back on the practice squad, meaning, again, any of these stupid ass, pardon my French, stupid ass teams in the league could have signed him off their practice squad. We sat there and listened for you idiot GMs the last 3 weeks, all the teams that could use him, and none of you listened. Why? Do you like to lose? He's just won 3 games in a row. I don't understand it. Mind-boggling.
Yeah. I think teams have the right to match an offer given to a practice squad player. I think could be
I don't
wrong
know if
there.
that's true or not. We'd have to look
Uh,
into that. But
yeah,
even if they did, why wouldn't a team try?
right. I
Browns
know.
might say, "Well, we can't match that. Go for it."
And who started Dorian Thompson Robinson? You don't do anything in the playoffs with him.
Yeah, I just don't understand what the
I don't,
vitriol towards Mr. Flacco.
I don't get it either. The Texans, outside looking in currently, even though they are the third 8-6 team in their division, but they squeak out another win this past week against the Titans. Boy, the Titans are not.
Yeah, they're
They're
so
not a good
awful.
football team. They really, really are. Derrick Henry, are you ready for this? 16 carries, 9 yards,
Wasn't pretty.
four catches, 1 yard. Oh, poor fella. Nobody was worth having in this one, not
Nope.
even the quarterback, Will Levis. And then on the other side, there are only 2 guys. Noah Brown was a good spot start for you with Nico Collins out and Devin Singletary. 26 attempts for 121. You want to talk about, I don't want to say hiding your quarterback, because Case Keenum, who started over Davis Mills, a little confusing there. But he did have 36 attempts. But man, you give Devin Singletary 26 carries. I feel like that's getting the ball out of Keenum's hands as much as they could.
They sure did. Wouldn't you?
It worked. And it worked. 19-16.
That's it. I mean, if Stroud's not coming back this week, they've already said, but yeah, they got to get him healthy because if they make the playoffs, Case Keenum and Davis Mills aren't going to get it done in the AFC. Sorry.
Correct. Correct. The Buccaneers roll up into Lambeau Field, and Baker Mayfield had the only perfect quarterback rating in the history of Lambeau Field as from a visiting team. What was shocking, but 22 for 28, only 6 incompletions for 381 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Way to ball out, Baker. Rashad White did his thing. Oh, man, I feel like it's still quietly what he's doing. I mean, people aren't saying how good Rashad White is, but they should, because every single week, 21 carries this week, 2 catches, but for 50 yards and a score because he broke one free. And then Chris Godwin, 20 fantasy points. Mike Evans, a little bit of a letdown, but he still got you 13. And then that was basically it, unless you started Tucker Kraft or Dontavian Wicks. And I did start
Where
Tucker Kraft for 2 leagues, which is nice.
where did this Godwin thing come from? He scored more that game. I mean, in his last 6 games, he only scored about 30 couple total. And all of a sudden he throws up a 20 burger.
The NFL's weird, man.
It
There's
is.
so many odd
They're
things that go on.
frustrating.
Right.
And the Packers are who we thought they were now. Trash.
Yeah, they were rolling for a little bit. They were
Yeah.
rolling, but and right now the Buccaneers at an impressive 7-7 are leading the NFC South. They're tied with the Saints at 7-7, but the Bucks have the tiebreaker. And then the Packers are 6-8, but they're not catching the Lions. Lions are 10-4. That's over with.
I'd like to see Mayfield do this for 3 more games, win the division handily, and get MVP votes. That would be so awesome. I would love it. If he played like this 3 more games in a row at the end of the season, boy, that's going to weigh heavy in some voters' minds. I don't expect him to do that 3 games in a row, but if he did, boy, that'd be a hard argument.
And it, as crazy as it sounds, the NFC South, depending on their schedule, like they have a chance, I think, to send multiple teams
They
to the
do.
playoffs
They do because the NFC is
because
that poor as far as depth. Yeah.
as of right now, the Rams are in a wild card spot at 7-7. The Seahawks are also 7-7. Bucks are 7-7. Saints are 7-7. Vikings are 7-7. I mean, talk about mediocrity.
It is. It's a very top heavy conference. The AFC, not so much.
A absolute snooze fest. The Panthers get their second win of the season. Congrats, Carolina. 9-7 over the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, negative fantasy points, negative -0.1. Only 11 yards rushing, lost a fumble. And they didn't get him going in the passing game either. Only one catch for 3 yards. And Chuba was the only player for either team to hit double digits in fantasy, and he only had 11.
Let's move on.
Okay, yeah. Chuba's getting the work, though. If you got him, throw him in that flex.
No reason to really talk about the
Feel
game of
decent
those
about it.
people.
Well, we can also probably move on from the Saints beating the Giants 24-6. Not much to see here. Nobody in double digits for the Giants. And Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, only guys that you probably didn't start Derek Carr.
Dude, have you seen the DeVito story?
Which one?
The pizzeria one?
I don't think so.
So a few weeks ago, this pizzeria that's had like Eli Manning there, various Giants, they do promotional things for him signing pizza boxes, just promotional thing. And so he's supposed to come in Monday night for a 2-hour thing for $10,000. Well, his agent, the mafia dude from 2 weeks ago, contacts the place, says, sorry, the price is up to 20,000 now. And they're just like, look, we're a little family-owned pizzeria here. We're not Little Caesars. We're not Domino's. We can't afford that. So they decide not to do it. What gets to the press? And DeVito starts taking this huge PR hit. Mafia guy, he doesn't care. He'll just have a couple people whacked. But DeVito decides he ends up screw all of you, including Mafia, and goes Monday night for free.
Good for him.
Absolutely.
That's how it's done.
Big kudos for that dude. He's like, man, because he said I didn't even know. I had no idea. It's just I didn't know any of this until I started reading how much everybody hated me on Twitter. And it's like, what the hell happened here? Like, what did I do? So since then, he now has Mafia for his agent, but he's now hired a marketing person and then a separate agent that will do all of his side deals, a side that Mafia dude's only doing his NFL stuff.
Does he realize
the Giants. What's
does
that?
DeVito realize his time in the
I
spotlight
know,
is
but why not maximize your 15 minutes, right? Instead of doing stuff for free because your guy botched it. He'd have cost him $10,000.
I hear you. It's just hiring all those people, like they're all taking a cut.
They are taking a cut, but a cut of 10,000 is better than a cut of 0.
I hear you. The Niners go in and beat the Cardinals 45-29. I can't believe the Cardinals scored 29 points, to be honest.
It was a lot of it in the fourth quarter.
I mean, it was a blowout.
Yeah.
The Purdy was great again. He might really be the MVP, 240 passing yards and 4 touchdowns.
He'd have to really choke down the stretch to not win it.
McCaffrey should get some votes for MVP as well. 115 yards and a touchdown rushing, 5 for 72 and 2 receiving scores. Deebo Samuel, 2 touchdowns for him as well.
Yes.
Cardinals, outside of the running backs, James Carter and even Amari DiMercado. I guess Trey McBride, but the receivers, what's his name? Hollywood Brown didn't play. So 10 for 102 for Trey McBride. We love that, especially
the
tight
guy's
ends.
a target monster.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's young, prime Zach Ertz. I said that a couple weeks ago.
Well, these 49ers, for the second time this year, look unbeatable. So let's see if they go on a 3-game. Last time we said that, they lost 3 games in a row.
Well, let's not say it until the playoffs start then.
Fair enough.
Because, man, they really, really do look unbeatable. We mentioned the Redskins earlier, Jacoby Brissett coming in and playing. They lost to the Rams 28-20, but Brissett 8 for 10, 124, and 2 scores in his limited time. He was out there on the field, and he made Terry McLaurin. He showed us who Terry McLaurin really is. Sam Howell has, I don't know if it's by choice or what, but has McLaurin's nothing with Howell. Yet we bring him Jacoby Brissett, 6 for 141 and a score. And this dude is so talented. He made a couple really nice catches this game.
First game over 20 points the entire season. First game in double digits since week 8.
Yep. The Rams, on the other hand, are treating Kyron Williams like Derrick Henry. 27 carries this game, 152 and a score. I mean, he gets, even at 5 catches, not only 3 yards on those, but they just feed him the run. And Cooper Kupp, back to doing Cooper Kupp things yet again, 8 for 111 and a score for him.
See that touchdown catch he had?
Kupp?
Yeah. Nobody within 30 yards of him. Sort of caught it on the tips of his fingernails or his fingers. Almost fell, but still caught it and ran in for a touchdown. I'm
Yeah,
confused as to how Cooper Kupp gets so open, but it happens.
right. So many players: Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. It's like you got one player, you got to stop. Don't leave him uncovered. The Bills beat up on the Cowboys pretty bad, 31-10. Cowboys were looking good until they went up into Buffalo. CeeDee Lamb, only guy worth having for Dallas, simply because he had a rushing touchdown, believe it or not. Josh Allen, ho-hum day, but that's because James Cook was the man. 25 carries, 179 and a score, plus 2 catches and a receiving score. He still had a terrible drop, which he has one bad drop a game, but only 3 receivers in Buffalo caught a pass.
Didn't need
There's
to.
only 7 completions for Josh Allen
Yeah,
on
he didn't have
15
to. They
attempts.
were ahead
I
from the
know.
beginning and running for 8 yards of play, so he didn't have to do anything.
The thing that I took away from this game had nothing to do with Dallas, really, but Buffalo never looked uncomfortable. They looked like they were just rolling out there. They
Yeah.
knew what was going to happen, and there was nothing that Dallas could do to stop them. But it was such because Dallas is a good team. I mean,
Yeah.
they're playoff
One of
bound,
the 5 best teams in the league.
right? And Buffalo just calmly beat them bad. That was I don't know. I just figured Dallas would put up a little more fight, or Buffalo would make some mistakes.
Yeah, and
Josh
we're
Allen's
still
a
at the
turnover
point
prone,
now
but
where we could make the argument very easily that the Bills are the most dangerous team, most complete team in the AFC right now, yet might not even make the playoffs.
yeah, I don't want to jump the gun on that, but they certainly looked the
Who's
part
better?
this week.
Maybe the Ravens?
Well, if the Bills show up, if who we just
So I'm
saw
saying
against
the team that
Dallas,
we've seen the last 2 weeks, I'm not judging it based on some crappy losses to the Jets. I'm saying right here, right now, they've won 2 good games, really strong games against 2 quality opponents 2 weeks in a row.
I'll buy what you're selling there. Your Ravens on Sunday night beat up the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Lamar Jackson was fine. Gus Edwards, another was a 1 yard touchdown, right?
It was.
That's that's his thing, man. Just 1 yard
I was hoping
touchdowns.
Lamar would take it in, but he did not.
Well, whatever.
I had him in the once and done, so I wanted some
Oh,
points.
gotcha. And nobody. I mean, you didn't start Jamal Agnew, but that was it. Jaguars not a great showing, and they needed to come out there for the fan base, folks around the league to have some confidence in them as they make their playoff push. But it just wasn't happening. They're
This
not
I
going to do
watched this entire game, obviously, it's the Ravens.
it.
It wasn't pretty. I know it was 23-7, but defense played pretty well, but the offense did not look good at all. A lot of 3 and outs. They just didn't look good. And the biggest thing we'll take from it is the Ravens just lost the one thing that I thought maybe could give them that little push to really make it to the AFC playoffs. Keaton Mitchell, their only home run hitter on the entire
Yeah,
team, done. Clean tear of the ACL, out. It
and you
was.
want
Did
to
you
talk
see it?
about
Did you see the play? I mean, you could tell. As a person who's torn mine, I knew as soon as he went down. Okay, that's the end of that.
yeah, it didn't look good, and it's a shame because he's such a young player, rookie, obviously from ECU, so he's
Yeah, his
got some
dad
fans
played
around who
for
line
them.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
what a
yeah,
great story. And I said the
yeah.
only what I consider, I know Zay Flowers is fast, and well, they have the old Odell Beckham, but he's not Odell Beckham of old. He's really their only true home run hitter besides L-Jax, and that's gone
And
now.
that's all he does is hit home runs.
Dude,
I mean,
he's averaging 8 yards a carry on the season.
I bet he's had more carries of over 10 yards than negative yards, like tackle behind line of
I
scrimmage.
would
I
say
bet he's
that's
got
a definite thing because he's averaging
yeah,
8 yards a carry, like literally averaging 8 yards a carry for the season. That's
impressive what you
crazy.
can
That
do.
doesn't even make sense in the
It
NFL.
also makes you wonder how many other small school players, like an ECU
Right.
or like an App State, how many guys would be really, really good when they have a decent offensive line and given some opportunities.
Never know.
Like
You
how
got
many
that
guys
kind
are
of
we missing?
speed and you got
Yeah.
that thing in your head of I'm going to prove everybody wrong. You have 47 carries for 396 yards. That's sick.
So
It's not like he had 5 carries in a game and broke one off long. We're talking about 47 carries.
I know.
That's half a
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. All right. Well, for my low point of my week, Philadelphia travels out to Seattle
Did
and
you stay up for
is
this?
oh, of course I did.
I was going to text you. I was like, you know what? I'm
You
not going to
forgot.
rub it in here. I'm just going to let him
Appreciate
speak.
that. I appreciate that. Philly was winning almost the entire game.
Yep.
And Drew Lock of all people brings Seattle back on the final drive. DK Metcalf, at least Philly did the smart thing. They double covered DK, and it didn't matter because he jumped up and he had both of the defenders guarding him. It's like their helmets were under his armpits.
Yeah, they were like hanging off of him.
He did this his best Calvin Johnson and comes down with this, well, was it like a 35-yard pass or something
Yep.
like that. And then Drew Lock throws this unbelievable over the shoulder pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba, who catches a fingertip grab on the back half of the football. An incredibly difficult catch, but he comes down with it in the end zone, touchdown. And Philadelphia, man, 3 weeks ago they were 10-1. They're 10-4 now, and you said all season, you know, even last week after 2 losses in a row, I still wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. I still wouldn't. Dude, I would play Philly in the playoffs in a heartbeat.
Hey, I would not want to because in any given week they might beat you by 35. But you're right. I thought that the bleeding would stop this week. It did not. Again, they're just the latest high-profile team to go on a 3-game losing streak. I wouldn't totally lose it here. But if they continue to not play defense and not score at the rate they were, yeah, they're going to be in trouble. The whole offense still doesn't look right. Something's just, you've got arguably one of the top 5 groups of weapons in the league. Use them more. Do something more. Take some shots downfield. Do something. It just looks like it's all Hurts right now. Like he's the only guy on the field that cares.
Last year, when Philly played Dallas, Micah Parsons is the man, right? They
No doubt
they
about that.
right they ran a play against them the first time they played, and they were watching Micah, and it was like a little pitch to AJ Brown, or like it's a little flat route, like he brought Brown in motion, and he did like this little pass to the a route to the flat. They threw it to him. He gets it, runs it in for a touchdown. Well, the next time they played him, they ran that exact same play, and Micah's all over it. So I think Hurts kept it and ran and had a big gain. But it was a perfect scheme. Like they set that play up weeks in advance. I mean, it's got to be the offensive defensive coordinators because they lost both. They lost Gannon and they lost
Well,
um
the
not Gannon.
defensive coordinator now is only defensive coordinator in spirit because
Right. Fired
what's
Matt
his name
Patricia
from
calling
New
plays.
England now is
Patricia. I
yeah,
know.
he's calling the plays, which he looked brilliant. I was actually thinking, God, man, maybe this was it. Maybe you just need a new guy calling out the plays, what they're going to do. But then at the end, it's just like, okay, I guess it doesn't matter who's the coordinator. They just aren't that good.
They really aren't.
Except for Jalen Carter, he's like the only guy. He's like the guy on defense that hurts us on offense. He looks like the only guy that cares, the only guy that's trying. Here's the
And
thing,
the
though. So I looked, and you probably already saw some of this. If they both still went out, because that was a conference game, so they're now tied for that conference tiebreaker. The first 4 tiebreakers, they're all tied. Philly wins the 5th. Strength of victory is actually the 5th. Strength of schedule is 6th.
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure I've heard of strength of victory.
Strength of victory, okay, because me either. I had to look it up. Strength of victory is the number of wins all of the teams have combined that you've beaten. So it takes out when losses mean nothing. So the first 4 were obviously head to head, then division, then conference, or no, then teams in common, then conference, and then 5th strength of victory, where Philly currently leads 69-53. I saw one site that called it 71-53, but I've run the numbers about 58 times, thinking maybe I don't know how to count. It's 69-53. The only way the Cowboys could make that back is to win their last 3 and Philly loses all 3. Well, if that happens, they're not tied anyway, so it doesn't matter. So if they both win out, then Philly will get the nod. But I don't know that they're going to. They've got a cupcake schedule. I think Giants, Cardinals, Giants. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't. I think I might say it's the easiest schedule left in the NFL.
It doesn't matter because the Giants
You think
always
they're going to lose
against
one
the
of those
division
games
game.
to the
I
Giants?
do.
Maybe they
I
could.
really do.
They
I
could.
really do.
But even then, Dallas has to win out. If they both go
Yeah.
2-1, I believe Philly would get it. Well, I guess it depends who they lose to. Point being, all things considered, Philly still is in the driver's seat, even though right now they're the wild card. They're still in the driver's seat to win it. So
And the
don't fret yet, buddy. But you're right. They might not, tiebreakers might not matter.
Cowboys still have the Dolphins, Lions, and Commanders left. So
Yeah, they got to
it's
get
in
through
Miami.
these two. Yeah.
In Miami. It's
Um,
not gonna be easy.
it's gonna make for interesting football, and it's great for fantasy because all these players, like in the once and done, obviously we know most leagues don't use week 18, but once and done leagues do. It's going to make all these games meaningful at the end.
Your will. All right, sir. Anything else before we get to our starts of the week?
There was something, but I can't remember what it was. I meant to mention it earlier, but I don't remember what it was, so it must not be that important.
See if it pops back in there when I tell you about my quarterback start of the week, Baker Mayfield. Let's ride this hot hand. We talked about it earlier. They have a home game against the Jags, who are the third worst against quarterbacks over the season and second worst over the last 4 weeks. And plus, Tampa Bay needs to win if they want to win that hapless division they're in.
Of course
They
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 do.
need some wins here.
They'll get a home
What's up?
game in the playoffs.
Yeah, think about that.
That's huge. It could
It
be
is.
against the Eagles. It could be against the Cowboys.
Sure could be.
Sure as heck don't want to go to their stadiums and play them. So since I knew you let that slip last night that you were going to pick Mayfield, I thought we would try to not pick the same because that's the obvious selection. Because I'm not
Yep.
picking Tommy DeVito or Zach Wilson, and Derek Carr sure as heck didn't get my vote. So I moved down a little bit to the number 6 against quarterbacks and the Arizona Cardinals, and I picked Justin Fields against them. And it may be a little bit of a bounce back game here. It's at Chicago. That should help. He seems to play much better at home. So Justin Fields and a bounce back.
30 or 3. That's what
Pretty
you're going to
much.
get.
Pretty
30 or
much.
3.
You're absolutely right.
Running back, give me the guy who's had at least 22 carries in 3 straight games. Poor man's Rashad White. I'll take Chuba Hubbard. He is getting all of the work in Carolina. Home game against the Packers. They have a bottom 10 defense versus the run. What happens to Miles Sanders next year? What are they going to do?
Let him go. What's the point of having
They
him there with
just
that
signed him.
salary?
They
Just
just signed him.
well, he sucks.
He's
Boy, what a
something, man.
letdown! Because you and I were both like, he's
Yes.
gonna be top 10. I was pissed that I didn't sign him to a long-term contract. Thank God I didn't.
No kidding, man. What
I
a
mean, they're
hit.
past the point of even giving him an opportunity, so they must know like this guy just he doesn't have it anymore.
He's always been so talented, but
I know
he's
he
always
just I guess
underperformed.
he just hit a brick wall this year, and
He's the
he
Chargers.
doesn't have the Eagles line blocking for him either, so I'm sure that played a role in it. We'd have to see what Boston Scott or Kenny Gainwell would do somewhere else.
Yeah, that's interesting because always before it was, why is Miles not getting the work? Well, he got the work this year. It didn't
Mounted
pan
to
out.
jack squat, nothing.
Right. Who's
So
your
I
running
went with
back?
the guy you already mentioned, and it's only because you and I both know he's a fantasy god anymore. But still, I bet you could ask half the people that do well, not fantasy, but people that just watch football. Who's the starting running back for the Buccaneers? And they're going to sit there and just scratch their head like, I don't have any idea. Is that Leonard Fournette? They're not. Is it Mike Allstott? They're not going to have any freaking idea that it's Rashad White and that he's dominating the freaking league week in, week out. He's to the point. He's opponent proof.
Yeah,
He
he's
does
right.
it every week. So I'm taking Rashad White against the Jags, who are fourth worst against the run.
He is running back 4 on the season at that
Yeah.
point PPR. And I tell you what's interesting. So you look at, and this speaks to the point of him being a workhorse and getting, all the carries and catches and everything. Christian McCaffrey's number 1 fantasy player or running back by like 80 points.
Yeah, Meyer.
He's right. He's averaging 5.3 yards a carry. Raheem Mostert, he's number 2, 4.9. Then you got Travis Etienne and Rashad White, 3.7, 3.8. James Cook's running back 5.1 yards a carry. Kyron Williams, 5.1 yards a carry. They're not efficient. They're just getting so much work. They can't help but score fantasy points, unlike Miles Sanders.
Yeah, poor Miles Sanders. Poor
Um,
Miles Sanders.
I threw in the towel for my wide receivers. I just wrote giant receivers, all of them. I hate Philly.
Okay. I can never pick a Giants receiver. One, because not any one of them's a true number one, and two, there's like 5 of them that in any given week will lead the team.
I know.
You have
If
no
I,
idea which one it's
if
going
I
to
was
be.
throwing a dart, I'd throw it at Slayton. There's Slayton, just because he's kind of a bigger play guy, and that's you can beat Philly anywhere you want. They are on record. They're on pace to give up the most receiving yards and the most receiving touchdowns of all time, I think.
They're truly awful.
Yeah. So
And I
just
said I told you early in the season that it didn't seem right, and that sooner or later it's going to catch up. Well, boy, it's catching up every week now.
and it didn't help that Darius Slay was out last week with an injury. But I really think it's a pass rush. I mean, last year Philly had a chance to set the all-time sack record. They're
Yeah,
not doing that this year, which gives the receivers more time to get open.
it certainly
And I
does.
think it's right. And the defensive backfields, it's different than it was last year, but
Mm.
still, you still got the same corners, and the quarterbacks have too much time now with the
Yeah,
pass rush
it's
not.
a combination of all those things because there's
Yeah,
no one thing that's going to make you the best, go from the best to the worst in less than 12 months, right? It
yeah,
has to
correct.
be a number of factors coming together to make it just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I signed him to a long-term contract. Maybe I jinxed this whole thing for you. My
Thanks,
apologies.
Kevin. It's all your fault.
I was with you. There was nothing in here that I found particularly exciting that weren't all studs.
Right.
Okay, Debo. Well, yeah, I think you're going to probably put Debo in anyway. So I went with Tennessee. They're awful, but I decided to put in D Hop. He's the only guy they throw to. They're playing Seattle. Seattle's not good. They're at Tennessee. Maybe there's a chance he throws up 100 yards and a score. I'm playing him in my league of record, even though I'm out of it. Uh, I don't know. I had to pick somebody, right?
That's that's right. How about Debo and Brandon Ayuk as wide receiver 11 and 13? By the time the season's end, that might be the team where we have 2 receivers in the top 10, top 12, 2
Yeah.
wide receiver
We had
ones.
2 of them
San
last
Francisco.
year in the top 10. Dolphins
Yeah, yeah, well, that ain't happening.
and who was the other one? Oh, Philly.
Jalen Waddle's got too much ground he's got to make up. Well, you know what? I guess Philly could do it again. Devonta Smith is at 16 right now. So if he ends a year with a couple big games, might be able
Never know.
to do something there. Certainly doesn't feel like that should be the case. But my tight end, Pat Fryermuth, Mason Rudolph is starting this week. And Cincinnati is the worst team against tight ends. And if you're Mason Rudolph, why not use Fryermuth as your outlet instead of these crybaby receivers you have?
That's the exact reason that I didn't pick him because the Bengals are the
Rudolph,
worst. It was Mason Rudolph. He's
fair
awful.
enough.
I mean, you're the backup of Kenny Pickett, so you can't be very good.
It worked
Uh,
out with Nick Mullins
yeah, we'll see what happens.
and
Hey,
Joe
more power to
Flacco.
him.
I think the third string quarterback's the way to go. You just skip your second
Maybe,
string and go
maybe.
right to the
I
third
really want
string.
Pittsburgh to lose. I really want them to have a losing season.
That's what Houston did. Houston didn't even try Davis Mills. They just said, you know what, we're just going to skip you. We're going to go to Case Keenum, and they won.
Yeah, they did win. Wasn't pretty, but they won. I went with a guy again that for some reason is still underlooked, Mr. Trey McBride. Bears are 4th worst against the tight end. You and I would play Trey McBride every single week, but a lot
As
of
a
people
flex.
still haven't even heard of him. Again, if you asked a normal person, you wouldn't even have to ask who's the Cardinals tight end. You could just ask who's Trey McBride play for, and many people would just not even have a clue. Like who's that?
If I had Travis Kelce on my team and Trey McBride, I'd throw McBride in as my flex.
You'd have to at least think about it.
Sure. If you started Trey McBride over Travis Kelce this past few weeks, you made the right choice.
I think right now that's true, but I think right now what it is McBride has a higher floor. But
Yeah.
Kelsey easily has the higher ceiling because you never know in a game when he's throwing in 3 touchdowns. But
Right.
you're right. If you're looking straight up floor, McBride over Kelsey.
You know what's crazy? If a tight end goes out and has a monster game, you don't say, "Oh, he did his best, Travis Kelce." You say he did his best, Sam Laporta. Like Travis Kelce needs to be more like Sam Laporta. How crazy does that sound
I've
right
never
now?
heard that phrase before. That's a new one. Well done. You're an innovator.
On my defense, Buffalo at the Chargers.
Yeah,
This
that's what I
team,
picked. That's a no brainer.
Easton Stick, starting quarterback. Buffalo's rolling. They
Yeah,
just shut
I
down
picked that too.
Dallas's
Even
high
though it's in
scoring
Los
offense.
Angeles, I don't care.
Yep, don't care. Yep,
They
I agree.
they are on a hot streak. They're looking to keep it going. They've got all the confidence, and I think it's not going to be worse than the Raiders game because that was like NFL history there. But it could be close.
Yeah, Philadelphia's point differential is 18.
It sure is. I saw that the other day.
18.
18. Because when they win very tight games. When they lose, they get smashed.
Gosh, that's not good.
It's not pretty, dude. It's not. But again, they've got the weapons, they've got the players. If the D line decides to show up, if the corners decide that they can still play, I don't want to play them in the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. I just do not want to have to play them.
All right, sir. That's all I got. Anything for you?
No, fantasy world, we got games what? Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 on Christmas Day. So make sure we're watching his lineup. So many guys are out. So many people are day to day game time decisions that it makes this difficult.
Lots of bowl games too. Lots and lots of football for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. I watch roughly 0 to 10 seconds of college football.
I usually put on the bowl games, like if I'm wrapping presents or cooking or something. I just want something on the background. I put it on.
Yeah, you put on Elf or Die Hard or Christmas Vacation,
That's true.
something that's meaningful.
Yeah, we hit up Christmas. Number top 3 Christmas movies all time for you. Quick before we go.
White Christmas is number 1 because it's my father's favorite movie, favorite song. I grew up sitting on his lap watching it. Still, it's hard for me to watch at times. Man, 2, Christmas Vacation. I got to go there. 3, Elf.
Oh yeah. So Christmas Vacation is my number 1. Elf is my number 2. 3, probably It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, very good. Classic.
Classic.
That's
Yeah, classic.
another classic we love. We watch every year a couple times. Miracle on 34th Street, the original.
Yeah.
Another one my dad loved. I just love
Christmas Story.
old school Christmas movies are the best. Of course, I love Bad Santa and even the uncut version, Bad Earth Santa. That's good times. Um, and the one, of course, that I adore, I'm going to go see in the movie theater on the 30th because Waynesboro has deemed that weekend, New Year's weekend, Die Hard weekend here in town.
Yes.
To me,
Yes.
Die Hard, I will vaguely call it a Christmas movie. It's really not, but there is Christmas involved. So if it makes people feel good to call it a Christmas movie, by all means, I'm not going to argue it. But me and some friends, we're going to go see it on the big screen. And at Rough Edges Friday night is Die Hard trivia night. So we're
Do it.
considering putting together a team to go do Die Hard trivia, but we're not sure if the schedules will all work.
Can I
But
zoom in
we're
for that?
excited. We're excited. We
Can I
watched
be
Die
part of
Hard
the
last
team
night.
via Zoom?
Say that again.
Can I be part of the team via Zoom? Is that allowed?
I don't think so because you're not allowed to have any electronic devices during trivia. Because there's somebody, us, we would just be having fun with you, drinking beers. Other teams somebody would find a way to cheat. But you're more than welcome to come up, spend the night here, visit some of your old Waynesboro and Hagerstown folks. We'll drink some beers, do some trivia, go see the movie Saturday night, Die Hard weekend.
Keep you posted on that, sir. Folks, thanks for listening. Get Your Bell Rung Football Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. Hope you guys have an awesome, wonderful Christmas. Enjoy your time spent with family and friends, and we'll see y'all in a week.
Merry Christmas, people.
Ho, ho, ho.